So I grew up in Maine where there's a large lobster culture. Everything's lobsters. There's lobsters, decorations, people eat lobsters. There's restaurants and businesses named after lobsters. They're everywhere. So it's not common for someone who grew up in Maine to have a crustacean phobia. I didn't know I had it until I started working in a seafood department. And I would go to work, and all the lobsters would crowd in the corner facing me. And I'd move to the other side of the seafood department, and they'd switch corners and follow me and just stare at me all day long. And it was really unnerving, and I used to have like nightmares about them. And they're terrifying creatures. They're related to mosquitoes. They're these big underwater bugs, essentially. And I think that's a terrifying fact about them. And they're really ugly too, which people don't realize enough. So my biggest fear was picking them up. They're very squirmy and they like to lash out, and it was really uncomfortable for me. So one day, this woman comes up to the counter and orders 6 lobsters. And so I take a big breath and get the first one in, and he's struggling a little bit, but I get into the bag, and the woman's going on and on about, while I'm doing this, about how she worked in a lobster bowl all last summer and how she's so expert at like scooping them up and things and stuff. And so I'm on my third one, and it's a big one. She was hand picking them, and as I started lifting it out, it was very still. It was almost not moving at all. I thought it might be dead. But as soon as it hit the air, it started bucking like a horse, and it was terrifying. It scared me, so I like retreated my hand back, and I let go of it, and the lobster pinwheeled in the air, and came to the ground in a big crash, and it snapped in half. Its tail broke off from the rest of it, and the lobster turned itself around, scooped up its tail with its claw, and seemingly looked up at me as it spacked up beneath the tank. At this point, I had already turned myself around and just walked away from the situation, where I went up to the break room and sort of rocked myself back and forth for a good while. And then I left work without knowing if the lobster had died underneath there, or if it scuttled down the aisles of the grocery store with its tail over its shoulder, terrifying customers. So the next day I come back to work, and there's a note from my boss that says, "Come see me." And then I knew I just had to leave. So I never went back to work after that.